Let's talk about stuff.
Are you ready for it, Brad? Are you ready to talk about stuff?
Well, I mean, yes, indeed. I should probably also stop playing Despacito on my computer. So, sometimes you got to do stuff. I got to make sacrifices.
Oh, jeez. Sacrifices for the cause, huh, Brad?
I mean, it is for the cause. I mean, it's for the greater good, even.
Ooh, you know I don't like the greater good. Why would you say that?
For the greater good, my man. You know what we're going to do? We're going to start with easy questions today, John. We're going to start with easy questions. Easy peasy, even. Let me pull up some con.
Lay it on. I'm ready.
So.
I mean, I'm waiting for it to load on my end.
Easy peasy, because this is an old school. I don't know how many people are even around for this one. Would vehicles generally be better and more used if they counted as obscuring? The next two questions are both from Zach with a Q.
Ooh. So like if vehicles had the obscuring keyword and if you couldn't shoot through them?
Yep. I mean, you got to figure of back in the day, this is old man Brad bringing it back from way back in the day. Back in the day, all units basically you couldn't fire through. Things they used to block to everything.
I remember actually, that was a while ago.
Yes. It was several.
I think I was in middle school when that was
I mean, you were like 4 when I started playing, so
yeah, something along those lines. Possibly, I think I was like 2 or 3.
Yeah.
You know, I actually don't mind that idea. I think just making vehicles like obscuring all the time would be maybe I'm gonna say yes, but not walkers.
Not walkers for sure. But I do like the idea. I mean, like through history, we've had literally like squads of infantry that literally ran next to tanks for cover and not be seen. So it is really hard in this day and age because the infantry models are on par with tanks a lot of times in true line of sight. But I would like to see, even if we did some sort of rule where maybe you, I mean, it would be hard, but if you had like an aura of obscuring, you know what I mean? Like a small thing for infantry units or something like that.
I could accept them just being obscuring. Then, of course, you'd run into the weird scenario where every rhino is driving sideways across the battlefield.
Oh, 100%. And people would model their vehicles to be super long. Custom converted.
Custom converted rhinos. You know, I don't mind the idea that like, what if dedicated transports were obscuring for infantry? That would be kind of
yes.
Like
I like something like cover behind tanks probably would be easier than obscuring, to be honest. Or if you treated it'd be easy. We already have an existing rule for it. If you just treated tanks as with a barricade keyword, and then just gave them keywords off that, you could get obscuring and everything. You're not obscuring, but you could get either obscuring, light cover, whatever. You know what I mean? Off of them. I mean, we already have that with barricades and stuff, where we have the 3-inch rule off the side of them.
Yeah, I would actually be super okay with that. So like they're barricades, not area terrain, obviously. And but yeah, you know, like I'm okay with that. You know, like think of like a rhino wall literally being that, which is like shielding the infantry behind it, and there's infantry inside. Like that actually kind of makes sense. I'm warm into this one actually. I think you have to like be careful to like if you're trying to do it to be cinematic. I think you have to figure out some kind of rule where you cannot drive the rhino sideways to obscure more infantry.
I like cover more. I know that you can ignore cover, but if we take away ignore cover on more things, or I tell you the truth, I'd love to have something like that overrides like I veto your anti-cover and I still get cover. You know what I mean? Like a couple rules that like just say that like you always get it.
I get that, but also like I feel like that's dangerously getting into the playground rules. Well, my laser beams ignore your force fields.
You should have played at the playground more often because it's fun as hell.
Look, I always won those, and I definitely never lost.
So, no, but I hate when you have a cool rule and like then you realize, but this basic thing just shuts it off. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I don't know. There's a lot of like really cool things in the game right now that a lot of armies just go, hey, I took a 4-point piece of war gear and it says I ignore all your cool rules. So pound sand, chump. So I don't know how I feel about that. Meh.
Yeah, I think you would just do obscuring to simplify it. Yeah, I think you do it as obscuring.
Yeah, I do kind of miss armor values at this point a little bit, but I you know what I miss? I'm gonna put this as a bonus thing. I miss firing arcs off vehicles because it drives me crazy when someone shoots me off a wing and the vehicle's facing the other way, and it just shut up.
Yeah. Well, you'll enjoy this, Brad. You know, since Jack and I have been dabbling a little bit in the Horus heresy, like all the hull-mounted weapons, literally, like they don't even have like the 45-degree triangle. They have a line, 1 inch thick, that goes straight off of the gun, and that's what a hull-mounted gun is. And it's like, if it's not sponson mounted, it doesn't get to move, and you have to rotate the tank to at the target in the movement phase. You can't just decide, oh yeah, my backtrack can see your Lehman Russ. Sorry, Chief.
Yeah. I do like that Christian has a good point on that. These consolidated the disembark unit after wrecking the transport instead of the open is a big deal. Yeah, that was crazy. All of the things. All right, as usual, I digress. I segue. I do what Brad does, which is shenanigans. Here, you know what? I'm going to give John a fireworks for the playground reference. I like that a lot.
You know what I'm talking about.
I loved it. The next up, we're going to go for Zach Part 2. Part 2, Pajama Jammy Jam. Would the game be more competitively balanced if there was a moratorium on new codices until they've had at least their first round of nerfs? Sadly, the answer is no, for me. Because you have to get games in to get the nerfs in the first place. I'm going to give you the Brad solution for everybody. Every time you get a codex, 4 weeks after that codex, you get a balanced data sheet for that codex, and you get the FAQ after you've had a good, literal, probably 10,000 games put in by the public. They have plenty of time, plenty of things to go. Everybody can wait 4 weeks for something to be broken, to be honest. We figure it out, and then just have them fix it every 4 weeks. But we know that's coming. We know we're going to get a data sheet. We know we're going to get an FAQ, and we get enough games in, and it's online like real updates are, which means you don't have to wait for me to write down, "Dear Margaret, the war is going well against the Tyranids."
They've been prey all for the last season. I don't think they'll arrive by Christmas.
I love that you guys are like, we let Brad choose his own topics, and he still goes off topics. True story.
Yeah, I don't like the idea of the moratorium, just because when a new codex comes out, I want people to get to play with it. I also want to play with it. I like playing with new toys, and I like playing with new codexes. So I don't know. I just don't think you'll catch everything.
You just need the games. I'm going to
be honest.
You need the games, man. We literally need the public. I'm sorry, everyone, but you're a beta tester, and you got to deal with that fact that you're going to have to accept that you're a beta tester because the game doesn't get balanced. What we just need is more frequent. If they would just touch it more frequently, then it wouldn't matter. If you think about it, you play. Everybody here probably plays some sort of game online. You know what I mean? They've played it in the past. Every game, something is a little jacked up when they first put it in. And then after you get 100,000 matches in, they go, "Oh, crap. This is busted. We didn't see it. Ooh, here's the initial fix."
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to be honest. When we got the Tyranid Codex, I did not immediately spot the broken things. Once we put it on the table, we were like, "Oh, yeah, no, this is pretty good." But you need to get those games in to really get it sometimes.
Yeah.
So I don't think a moratorium would help. I think it'll just postpone the problem, and the first wave of nerfs will just be a lot less successful, and it will require a second wave of nerfs.
Yeah, but you can take care of anything that's just really bad. You know what I mean? You can immediately change mechanics. You know what I mean? You can fix encircling. You can fix hawks.
Yeah. Well, honestly, if you would ask me for a Tyranid nerf the day it dropped, I would have been like, yeah, just tone down and circle the prey, and then let's just see what happens.
Yeah.
And after 4 weeks, we were like, okay, you know what? We're going to need a little more than an encircle the prey nerf.
And the thing is that we do need the games, though. It would be great if everything came out competitively balanced perfectly right away, but it's just not. And we need those games, and we unfortunately need about a month of us just going, this is super broken, man, to get them to immediately know what's up.
Yeah. Right on.
Yeah, the late testers are getting paid. Yeah. Yeah, I did not know that. Someone needs to send me a check.
Yeah, Brad's getting shorted money. I wanted to see if they were paying, maybe I'd be one, right?
Exactly. Let's give it some more.
Put it on me, Brad.
Whoosh. This is from Potential Fungus. And I love this one because it mentions me, and I love me. So, since Brad is there, and I know he's an absolute lad that loves his good sportsmanship and playing by intent, at what point would you say it's too late to go back and do something a player forgot? I.e., starting the shooting phase with a unit before remembering you need to cast with your psyker, or bringing in reserve models? Can I go first? Because mine is not what you should do. Play like Brad says, not like Brad does, because I will pretty much let you do whatever you want, almost as far as it is. But I'm a sucker for takebacks because I always want to feel like if I win a game against anybody, it is at their best, because winning against someone at their worst means absolutely nothing. I also like to make it so that you also owe me a glass of wine, so you're always in my debt of wine. I have free wine's always flowing. The spice is always flowing.
Yeah. So my answer on this one is, to me, there are two kinds of things that people forget. There are decisions people did not make, and there are things that they can just do for free and didn't do. There's basically no point where it's too late for you to put a chapter master buff down. You know? Where, like, if it's, like, literally the assault phase, and you're like, oh, wow, my Dante just didn't give the Sanguinary Guard rerolls to hit. And they were right next to each other, and he didn't pick anyone else, and no one got rerolls to hit. There's really no too late for that. For me, it's like, as soon as you remember it, like, yeah, let me know. Like, you can put on the Sanguinary Guard. No one else has fired with full rerolls. The Sanguinary Guard were right next to Dante. Obvious choice. You know, that's kind of like a go-ahead situation. For me, it's when you if you did not make a choice that was a real choice, and you have new information,
it changes things. Because if you were going to choose, you're going to psychic something or something like that, and like you just didn't get that last wound off a vehicle or something, and then you choose to do something, I give you that. Yeah. I'd like to hear everybody in the chat tell you the truth, your guys' opinions on this, because of the fact that I think this is actually the problem. There's always going to be a core problem with 40K and these kind of things, because the game was literally designed to be a beer and pretzels game that you play in the basement, and it became a competitive game. So there's always going to be some oddball discrepancy type things about stuff like that, because the core of the game wasn't made to be an esport. We made it into an esport because of its popularity and the love of the game that we have for the game. And then it comes from that. So it's hard for me on that, because I feel, and I've said this before, I'll say it again, I really feel that you owe your opponent at least a decent game. You have to not be an ass. And I'm not saying that I have to carry my opponent and I have to give them everything, but I kind of feel that like a little way. It also depends on the skill gap that you have. You know what I mean? So there's another question that goes into that, but like you have to realize kind of early on, whether it's I'm playing John or I'm playing John's little brother that started playing yesterday. There's a lot of difference in that also. You know, if you're playing someone that's completely new, you probably should be working with them all the time. You know what I mean? On reserves, on what they should be doing and everything else. It is up to you. If you're an experienced player and you're playing a very new player, you don't have to play their game for them, but you should be helping them along. I'm very, very, very passionate about that. I feel that you shouldn't just be like, hey, I smashed you on turn 1, you know, and figure it out. School of Hard Knocks.
Exactly. I'm all in favor of, you know, helping new players, making sure, you know, that people do their basic thing. Like I will remind people about reserves. You know, I will be like, hey, don't forget your psychic phase if they start shooting. That's all well and good. For me, it's the, you know, like if I like shoot and I start rolling my hits, then I roll my wounds, and then they're like, oh, can I transhuman? At that point, I'm like, I just rolled my wounds, man. You know, now's not a good time to transhuman.
Yeah. I mean, I get it. Those kind of things, yes. Because I feel like you're almost like angle shooting at that point in time if you're trying to be a scammer. But I do hate... If you declare you're going to do something, you can do... I'll give you this. If you declared you were going to do something during your turn, and you didn't do it at any point in time in your turn, I'm probably going to let you do it. You know what I mean? Because you said you were doing it. We talked about you doing it. I don't care where we're at that point in time. Just go ahead and do it. It's a big thing on that. I want to go back real quick because I saw that Case 324 made a great comment. It was on our last question, but I did want to do this because I think it's a really good one to tackle. He goes, big complaint I've seen in our computer is that sometimes things don't have enough time to settle before people start calling something broken. Games sometimes give you time to solve the issue. I 100% agree, and I think that's how Marines got so nerfed right now, is because people complained, and what we should have done, and sometimes, and the problem is that it's very hard, it is very hard to figure out what things are just going to be settled by the meta and what things are actually broken. So, that's why I think that we should be doing little nerfs all the time. So that way, if you touch something lightly and then the meta takes care of it, the person doesn't feel that their unit, their model, their army is unusable. That's a shitty time to have, is when you feel that your army went from good to unplayable. Your army can go from good to fair to okay, and that's fine. You never want to feel that I can't competitively play this army anymore. That feels terrible.
Exactly. That's, yeah, it's, and, you know, we always joke about like the dreaded GW triple nerf, where when people, you know, start complaining about an army is perceived to be too good, and every single level of Games Workshop like addresses it. Like with Genestealer Cult back in the day, it was like Genestealer Cult probably were too good around like September 2019.
Yeah.
But rules writers found out they were too good. Then the people who wrote the missions found out that Genestealer Cult played them too well. And then the people who did the points found out Genestealer Cult were too cheap. And then all of a sudden, by their powers combined, Genestealer Cult bottomed out at one of the worst armies in the game, like a month after putting like 3 top 8s in at the Nova Open.
Yeah.
Right.
Matt O is the best comment we had so far. I'm going to high-five you on that one, buddy. Unfun rules are 100% worse than just normal broken. 1,000%. Feels bads are a real deal, because in the end, we should be having fun. Because again, I've said this before, I'm going to say it again, because I'm an old man and I forget that I say things. You can't even bring these things that you're complaining up to people that don't play 40K, because you start off with going, hey, I'm an adult playing with my toys against another adult, and here's why I'm sad. And then the other person goes, I don't ever want to speak to you again. So in the base thing, you should be having fun, man. You know what I mean? And if somebody tells you that you can't play in a certain way to have fun, don't play with that person. So,
yeah.
I am taking shots at some of the Custodes nerfs. I complained about that forever. I think it's a real thing on that. It just is.
See, honestly, like with those Custodes nerfs, my biggest problem with them is actually not the power level. I think from a strength perspective, Custodes are a top half army in the game. I honestly think Custodes are like still pretty good. I think the problem is that the Custodes nerfs took away a lot of the fun options and made the builds one-dimensional. And like, I feel like, I get it. No one wants to see, you know, 15 Retributor Gold Custodes armies, you know, just destroying top tables. But I don't know. I feel like there was an in-between there where you kept a little more diversity in Custodes lists and kept them a little more fun to play, instead of just being like, yeah, your best stuff is gone and your good stuff is now like boring.
Do I want to segue again? I think I do.
Go ahead, Brad. Get on that segue.
Well, a couple of people are talking about clocks, and I don't know where I stand about clocks. Clocks are a thing because of the fact that you can't have one player playing all of the time. But even though I'm a competitive high player, I'm bad at the clock. I am, because I'm too busy telling you stories about crap I did. You know what I mean? You can deviate away, but I'm not good at going. I'm good at just clicking my turn. But when you go back and forth on dice and stuff like that, I don't like that it stops my interaction with you having fun. I finished 90% of my game, more than that. I can't even remember the last time I got clocked out. You know what I mean? But
I remember.
You remember? You like Pepperidge Farms remembers.
Mine. I don't remember yours.
It is a thing that we have to use. But like, I don't know. It's a necessary evil, I guess. But sometimes I hate the fact that we use them, because of the fact that it becomes one more barrier between you and I just talking about 40K while we play.
Yeah, I think clocks do make the game slightly less enjoyable from a community social perspective. 100% agree with you on that. But I think clocks are a little bit necessary when you're going for a competitive game, determine a winner, important, this affects the tournament kind of game. So like as soon as I'm out of contention of a tournament, clock stays in my bag. Day one playing against someone who's got a good vibe and is like there to have a good time as well, clock stays in the bag, no problem.
At the top level, I think that the judges should run the clock. I love the judges running the clock in LVO. It's amazing.
The clock, I get soup. So like I feel like every top 8 that has enough people for it to matter should have a table judge on the clock.
For sure. I mean, when we played at LVO, like I felt we had tons of time, even though we were on the clock, because the judge was running the clock. Every time you and I had a discussion, you know what I mean? It felt easy breezy because the judge was running it. Same thing with all my games with that. It just, I don't know. It's not like you can have a judge at every single table. I don't know. Whose responsibility is it for clock management? If someone's very aggressive with a clock, do you feel like, does it stress you out? Does it make your game less fun?
I don't get stressed by the clock. It cuts down on the storytelling, definitely. And what, I don't know, clocks, like you run into problems where like clocks are pretty accepted at top tables nowadays, but like I feel like every other week, like literally at least twice in the past month, I've heard mumbles from people who are at an event who are like, yeah, the top table, Johnny McSmith, like just put it on his opponent's turn and then didn't take it back, and then he won the game, while Bobby McGinnis was like wouldn't let his opponent play when he ran out of time.
I love everything about these. These seem like created characters when I'm playing a game.
That's what I name my characters in video games. You kidding me? Bobby McGinnis saves.
And the thing is that the game, don't get me wrong, clocks are a necessary thing for a lot. But the thing is that it's the aggressiveness of the clock versus the fairness of the clock. So I feel that you can't just let one person basically stall you out and have a 2-turn game. You know what I mean? That's not a real thing. If I don't play 5 turns, I don't think the game counts, to be perfectly honest. Because
you can finish the game.
Right. So it is a big deal on that. All right, I'm going to move on because we have other questions.
Do it.
I saw things. My mind went squirrel. So this is from Swerve85. To table or not to table, do you lift your foot off the gas ever in a game, the Brad aggression, or do you purposely avoid interacting with some units all game, the Lennon dance? I love the names for each of these. I'm fairly...
Dance.
I think this is a big deal, though, because of the fact... I said it earlier, and I touched on it, and I should have waited for the question. But you, again, have a responsibility to your opponent to give them a decent game. If you are significantly more experienced than your other player, don't throw the game, don't play the game for them, but you shouldn't be just curb stomping someone that's very new. And the problem is that becomes a very different argument if, say, John and I play. We literally talk about 40K every single day, so we've got a lot more experience than a lot of people. However, you get into a game where I don't want to try to make myself lose, but I also owe you a game. You know what I mean? So if you make some sort of mistake and I capitalize on it, am I supposed to immediately try for the table? And I think that answer for me is no, because I still feel I owe you a decent time.
Yeah, it's for me. It's like my first, like when I'm at the table, I want to win my game. As far as I'm concerned, as soon as I think I have won the game, it immediately goes into like, and not that you shouldn't be thinking about this before. It's like, hey, make sure the other person has a good time. Like it's like, all right, if I've got an advantage, I'm like, all right, well, maybe I'll go throw my warlord out there to go duel their warlord because my primary is way ahead of theirs. Like let's have a good time. But I'm also not going to walk the swarm lord forward until I know that I've won the game.
Yeah.
I never go for the tabling just for the sake of having a tabling. To me, the difference between 97 and 100 is literally 0. Like it doesn't matter. Because my goal is always to win all my games. I don't really care. I don't need to try to use points as a tiebreaker. The goal is to go win all my games. So just have a good time. But I will absolutely, I'll purposely not go for a tabling if I think it would lead to someone having a worse time. Like pretty simple, honestly.
100% on that. We're still talking about the clock in the chat too. It's hard, man. That's a hot topic. We should have made that today's hot topic.
Yeah, our chess clock. We could do it. There is a lot to talk about with chess clocks, but
it's polarizing though, because of the fact that I don't like when someone, I like clocks because I tend to play fast enough where I finish. Yeah. But I know I'm going back to this, but it just everybody's talking about it still in chat, and I really want to address those a little bit, just because I like the weaponized on it. I don't like.
But then people will weaponize a lack of a clock.
Correct. No, that's what I'm saying. That's why it's a necessary evil. I just think that there has to be. I don't know. We don't have clock etiquette yet. You know what I mean?
That's the things. I don't think we have enough clock etiquette. I think this is something that will develop over the next few years. But like, I can tell some like horror stories that haunt me about when we didn't have clocks in competitive play. And like the what if just kind of like hangs with me the entire time. It's like, oh man, you know, like when I was like 16, I was 4-0 at a major, and due to the number of people, there was whoever won the game 5 was going to be the last undefeated person, and I lost the game because I put like 600 points in reserve, and it was like 1850 at the time, and I didn't really realize that slow play was a thing, and somehow we just never played my turn 3. And I lost.
Oh no, that's not even true. That can't be happen at all.
Well, I'm not gonna shame on the internet here, but Brad, if I told you the name of the guy I played against, you would immediately be like, "Oh, that guy." Yeah. It is a known that guy.
I just don't like that. And the thing is, slow play is a real thing, and you can try to use it to that is a weaponized thing, because I've had that happen to me before, and I've gotten yelled at by our current captain for my lack of clocks sometimes, because I have had some problems with that. But man, I don't know. I just want to have the most fun possible. Clearly, if you see me, I'm trying to have a good time. I play with tiny soldiers and I'm an old man. So like, if I'm not having a good time, why am I doing it? So I think we need more clock etiquette. Maybe I'll teach a class on that. I'm the worst clock player ever. I should definitely not teach a class on that. Yeah. But I have opinions on being a student in that class.
I would trust you on clock etiquette, Brad. I wouldn't trust you to run my clock.
Oh, God, no. You're like, Brad, if we played the entire game on my time, yeah, seems like it. But the problem with me on the clock is also if you timed out, there's a good chance I would just put it. Yeah, I would just be like, put it on my time and then just keep playing your turn.
We literally didn't even have a clock.
Yeah, I did that. And I agree, everyone. No one wants to lose because of the fact that someone slow played you. And I agree. I agree the clocks are a thing. I just wish we had a better, I guess, clock etiquette to be fair and fun. I don't like feeling that I'm pressured to, you roll one die and slam over the thing, and then I forget it. And then over the course of the game, I run a half hour of your turn on my time because I'm not a ninja warrior. I also have little T-Rex arms. I can barely reach across the table.
Here's the proposition for you, Brad. If you run your turn on your opponent's clock, you can get yellow carded for that. But like, I don't know how. But like, that's also not fun because that can just be a genuine mistake. But like, well, you know what do you want to do about it? Clock judge is the best answer.
Let's see, it's 1,000% the best. I love clocks if the judge is running them. It feels perfect because also I can just say I have a tough turn coming up. And I can literally stare at the table as long as I want. So on my clock, there's no discussions or anything. Because there's going to be turns where you're going to need, most of my turns are going to be bam, bam, bam. And there's going to be a couple turns that are going to be, hold on, I need to make real decisions on this game.
Yeah, that's the thing. I feel a lot more pressure when there's no clock. Because anytime, like, it doesn't matter that I didn't take a turn 1 psychic or charge phase. If on turn 2, I'm like, ooh, let me just think about how I'm bringing my reserves in before I move anything and do my command phase. And I like stare at the table for 2 minutes. If there's no clock, it feels like my opponent's eyes are boring into me. Like, don't slow play me.
Yep.
And like, hey, I didn't even take a turn 1. Like, give me a second. And then like, I don't know, the anxiety builds up, at least for me. It's like, I would rather just have a clock that's like, yep, I'm using my time.
Yeah. And I agree on that because there's going to be some times when I swear that probably one of my turns takes almost the same as all of my turns sometimes. Because there's going to be that one turn that's the swing turn. All my reserves comes in. I'm going to make all my moves, my attacks, you know what I mean? So that one turn will probably take so much longer than any one of my other turns. And I do feel that on that because your opponent starts going, no clock, you're staring at nothing, you know.
Yeah. With no clock, the other player always feels like you're wasting their time. When frankly, I actually find that taking 2 minutes to stare at the table and then playing my turn is faster than not taking the 2 minutes and playing it and stopping thinking.
Yeah.
It is faster to take time.
We do need some clock. We need clock etiquette. We do need clock etiquette. I don't know what the answer is, everyone, but I love all your comments. I really do, because it gets me thinking on stuff. And obviously I can't think for more. Super chat coming in from Case324. Use the clock to defend your time, not to attack your opponents. I can't even answer that without swearing, because it's so much yes. Effing yes.
That's the exact mentality that every player should have. Unfortunately, you need to make sure that everyone is on the same page with that. Because if one person is defending their time and the other is attacking it, it can get awkward. And especially when people aren't experienced with.
I think it's a lot of things with that, though, because you have to, man, I just don't like that. I don't like feeling taken advantage of on anything. You know what I mean? If you're trying, you should be trying to be a cool dude to your opponent at all times, unless your opponent's a complete a-hole, but that is very few and far between. Most people are trying to have a good time, I feel, as long as they feel that you're being fair to them. You know what I mean? So
yeah, and I'll 100%, like, I use clocks to make sure we get 5 turns. Yeah. I don't really care if I get an hour and 30 to the dot to the second of our 3-hour time limit. I care that I play 5 turns. That's all I need, because I can play 5 turns in an hour 30. No problem. Like, this is going to happen. What just burns me is like those games I lost where it's like, oh yeah, sorry, I know it's turn 4, but there's less than 5 minutes left, so you can't walk on to those objectives. Like, those are the ones that I'm like,
no, that's
I've lost, I've lost like that, and it's no one enjoys losing that way in a game where they feel like they should have won.
And I agree on a lot of these comments, by the way. You guys are making great points. I love it. I mean, seriously though, it's just boss mode. Let's go to a fun one, because I also want to say this name. Because the next question is from Gerbil Boss. and it is our main question for today. Do you think 40K is in a good place right now? Is 40K fun? Here's the deal with 40K. I let 40K get away with a lot in the rules because I play 40K more for the social experience than I do for anything else. You know why I can't stop playing 40K? Because I have about $1 billion, it feels like, wrapped up in models. And I have friends from all around the world.
all my friends play 40K.
Yeah. and it's a great, it's the best icebreaker of all time, because you get people of disparate regions, beliefs, views, and everything, and then we start talking about 40K, and then we can immediately start having an all-night discussion. And that's why 40K is so cool. We are never going to have a perfectly balanced 40K. We can get closer than we are right now if longtime players will know that we're actually, even though we bitch right now, and we're getting to a point where 40K is way more balanced than it used to be. There's been times in 40K where if you didn't bring one of 3 or 4 lists, not factions, lists, you could not win a tournament, period. And GW lived on Mount Olympus somewhere, and you weren't allowed to talk to them, and they didn't interact with you.
It's like you send a runner with like a list of suggested nerfs to GW, and they have to go trek across the Himalayas, and like 7 months later, they came back, and they're like, GW had a question before they put the nerfs in. Can you explain why D weapons are bad? And then it's another 7 months while the runner goes back to try to be like, please stop killing us with D weapons. It was terrible. Yeah. I honestly think 40K is in a great place right now. And I will say balance of the game and health of the game are related, but not equal.
Correct.
And from a health of the game perspective, as far as I can tell, there are more 40K events now than there have ever been on a weekly basis. There are more people playing Warhammer than I've ever seen before. There's more 40K content. The models are better. The community is larger and growing. As far as I'm concerned, 40K is in a fantastic place relative to where it's ever been. The balance of the game can still be questioned because we have at least 2 codexes that need a love tap. But we've got balance patches coming relatively regularly. We're not dealing with the same Drukhari list that Dark Technomancers would not have gotten an FAQ by now in 7th edition. Dark Technomancers would be exactly what it was printed as, the exact same points cost as it was last March.
I will give a couple of people in chat about this. I like playing different shit all the time. When I'm playing against, I apologize. I also playing with different stuff too. But I think that we do have to watch out for any one thing being busted. because I don't want to play Iron Hands every time again. that kind of thing. I don't want to play only Tyranids. So it's a big thing on that. I do agree that, but I'm going to give you guys the solution. Play more team events, baby. Because if one army's busted or 1.5 armies are busted, it does not matter in a team setting. I'm telling you right now, as soon as you play teams, you'll be on my end where I'm jonesing for more team events like the Euros have, like the Australians have. Because once you play a team event, it's hard to actually play singles events. Because it solves so much of this meta problem. You go, is 40k in a good place right now? We can have that debate probably all day long, to be honest, because of the fact that anytime one thing is too busted, if you see it in every single table, you're just like, not only is this busted, but I'm literally tired of playing against the same army every time. Rocky Top, I played 5 Tyranids out of 8 games. You know what I mean? I don't want to play that. I would love to play 8 games of 8 different armies. You know what I mean? And it felt really good. I actually at MCM, I played a lot of different stuff. I played more Tyranids than anything else, but I played a lot of different stuff. But the thing about that is that obviously changes in teams. You know what I mean? So we have to watch out for the top, but we just need more touches. We need more active touches. And I think that people, they have guys that I'm going to give everybody a thing to do. If you put positive as far as and questions and stuff like that in the Warhammer community, in that they literally have hired people that like take care of that. They actually look at those things. If you don't send them something that's like you have a stupid face and you smell bad and Tyranids are broken. But if more people put in, this is how I feel about the game, these give me feel bads, I would like it more if we had more frequent updates, blah blah blah. That gets us closer to more frequent updates. That gets us closer to having the game be in a better state. Because of the fact that they literally look at that. If something's said all the time, people that are high up that are in charge of making money go, hey, why did Ted tell me that the community keeps saying this? Fix this. He doesn't care how you fix it. Fix this. It's a big deal on that. So there's a couple things that are messed up on in the game right now. There's a couple things that are a little bit OP. Being not able to interact with something. Tyranids are a little too tuned up, 100%. Eldar has a few things that should be tuned down. You know what I mean? You can talk about Hail. No, we already talked about the Hawks and the Bahara thing. I actually try to take my army into ways that I'm not going to be hurt by nerfs a lot of times, to be perfectly fair. To be fair.
Oh yeah, I've already stopped playing with the Reaper of Obliterax flying half turn because people just keep telling me every time I use it, like, this is the stupidest relic I've ever seen. And I'm like, I don't know if that's getting nerfed, but if every single opponent that gets hit by it is like, I hate this and you and your dog for using that relic. I'm like, okay.
I mean, that's why I'm on 5. I'm running 5 Hawks for that.
Yep.
And I use them to move block half the time and stuff because it's just, I don't think that they're going to be where they are. So, and I'm not telling everybody to just not use the best things in your codex until it gets nerfed. I'm just saying that you should have an alternate plan lined up for when it does.
100%.
Yeah, I agree on James. I'm going to give James real quick on this. Is 40k in itself fun to play? At the end of the days, yes. It's the negativity surrounding the community and the constant meh from people on Reddit for any and everything that makes it not fun. Yes, people harp. I heard the internet will occasionally bitch at stuff.
Once in a while.
If you want to be fair, I almost never chat about things. I'm old. I pick up phones. I call people and they hate it. I do call more than everybody else that you've ever known. I call as much as your grandma does.
Brad calls me when I'm busy and doesn't answer the phone when I'm free. That's how you know he's a real boomer.
True.
It's like I'm on a date with my girlfriend. Brad calls me 3 times. I'm like, I'm just not going to answer this right now, Brad. And then it's like, all right, nice Friday afternoon. Let me give Brad a call. Nowhere to be found.
And the thing is everybody that talks about fun and if 40 cases in a play right now, I'm going to give you a couple things in a row. One, if somebody says you can't put a unit or you're dumb for playing a particular thing, punch them in the throat and then move on with your day. But then, fine. All right, at least tell them that you're going to do it. I guess we shouldn't advocate violence on 40k channels. But my point of that is, 1, play with what's fun. Play with what you spent tons of time hobbying. 2, you're not going to find the new thing unless you're willing to step outside of the box, because that's how for every game that we play, you see on the War Room, man, we test so many lists out and so many units, and we're willing to try things, and we come up with different lists by putting things out. Hey man, is this speeder good? Is this good? You know, everybody says this is good. Let's just go try it out, man. You know what I mean? Put stuff on the board that you like. It's a toy game. Put things out. Even if a list is terrible, 10% of that list might be the new thing that you put in your old list to make your old list better. And it might be fun in the process. So I feel on that. Even if you're playing competitively, you got to step outside and have fun with it. And having fun will make you be a better player, because if those jokes are the worst way to coerce me. Imagine. Come on now. By the way, Britt still doesn't believe that that's your real name.
That's okay.
She thinks that it's like a stage name that you use for 40K.
Al Heffelfinger of Florida.
It's all things. I have a question to ask everybody before we go.
Mm-hmm. Lay it on me.
Who's going to ACO, and are you buying me wine?
Brad, you know I want to.
I mean, one of us is letting the other person down. I'm not going to name any names, but they also made some of the best songs in the 20th century. No
ACO for John, but I'm happy that you get to go. Hopefully you can get a repeat.
I'm hoping so. I really want to get there. I'm going to be talking, if anybody's here tonight, I'm going to be going down to the hall as soon as I get in. I think we're getting in at 8:39, and I'm going to talk about player place terrain, because before any tournament, I feel it's super important to look over the terrain, get a feel for what you're going to do before you start playing. It helps a lot.
Yeah, that's fair.
And on that, I'm going to get in the car and go to ACO right now.
All right. Well, Brad, safe travels, safe drives. Good luck at ACO this weekend. And good luck to everyone playing at events this weekend, be it ACO, be it any GTs, and maybe even the GW Open in California.
And good luck to anybody that's playing in the basement with tacos and beer.
That's me.
Love it, guys. Queens Wave.